All right, so this document, it's just a little something to talk about with concurrent enrollment options we have. So I'll catch you up a little what's going on, and then I'll let you ask questions. So I met with the Red Rocks, Marilyn Kenfield's her name. She's in charge of concurrent enrollment at Red Rocks. And I forget the technologist who came along, but Juan was there, Kathy Bowney was there, and Bridget Giancala, who's in charge of concurrent enrollment for the district, was there. And no school right now is offering online concurrent enrollment through Red Rocks. And they thought maybe not anywhere in the state with any of the community colleges even. So they were excited that we could be the first school to do this. So it's pretty exciting. As you can see at the top of the document, these are Red Rocks classes taught using their system. And we talked a lot about that idea of, I know last year, Kathy worked hard trying to figure out how we could get that into Schoology. How could we get some of the content? How do we make this work? What it's come down to is it's not going to work that way. And so we need to use their system. So the students and the teacher will be living in the desire to learn D2L's LMS from Red Rocks. And there are some benefits to that because first of all community colleges in Colorado use D2L, and many four-year schools use D2L. I think CSU, CU Boulder, the CU campuses. So students would get into that system ahead of time and learn that system and then be in the system already, which is beneficial to them in college anyway. So there were some benefits for students there. It does, of course, require then some training as teachers in D2L. And we could talk about that when we get to that point as far as we do have a little bit of funding for things like that. So I think we could figure that out to get some training. These are only GT transfer classes, only guaranteed transfer classes. And because we're limited right now by the vice president of Red Rocks, he's concerned about offering too much too quickly. He wants to see a sort of a pilot. Will this work, right? And I don't blame him. So what he's proposing is just a math or an English. What I'm going to propose back to them is that we would offer what you see on the sheet, that we offer the sequence math 121, 122, English 121 and 122. So fall, spring for those two. I think those are very commonly taken classes for concurrent enrollment. My experience in the past has been these are very popular concurrent enrollment classes. So I think it'd be a good place to start. There's no textbook required for math. So there wouldn't be, we don't pay for book costs for students. There's no textbook cost for math. English does have some costs associated with it. There are some novels and some things the students have to buy. We have to get that figured out. But so it's set up in a way that students would pass the course of AccuPlacer. It's not called AccuPlacer by most people anymore. It's called the college readiness test or something like that, but it's AccuPlacer essentially. And then they apply for the College Opportunity Fund. And just so you know, the way this works for us is that the district pays out, or we essentially pay out to the college for each of those the cost of tuition for the courses, but then we're reimbursed back 105%. So really we make 5% on every kid who takes a college class with Red Rocks through us. And that's not why I want to do this. I didn't know that. I thought we were just paying for it. I'd be okay with that. But we get actually a little bit of a return on that, which is nice. I don't know about this, and I'll let you guys chime in a little bit, maybe from math, maybe Gwen, but the See You Succeed, I don't have a problem with offering that as well because that's different. That's our class, giving them the credit through our class. This is entirely different. This is taking the actual college class online. So that's why I see a difference there. That's okay to offer both opportunities.
I also think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cheryl, but See You Succeed is for your calculus class, right?
Yes, right now it is for the calculus classes. They do actually offer like college algebra and things like that.
Yeah. When I taught college algebra, when I taught for See You Succeeds at Arvada West, it was the college algebra that I taught. So that is basically pre-calculus, right? The semester 1 and semester 2 would be pre-calculus. So that makes sense to me to still be able to offer See You Succeed, especially at the calculus level, and then start with the basically pre-calculus here with concurrent enrollment.
Okay. You can see in the table there too that the Jeffco credits, that's the crosswalk document that Jeffco has created that tells me which credits I can give for those classes. And so you'll see that there. For English, it's a full credit for each 121 and 122. So a student in 1 year could get 2 English credits.
Wow.
The crosswalk for math isn't the same. It's only the half credit, but it is geometry or higher for both of those. So it's just the way they interpret math's different. So that's the way it's been interpreted by Jeffco. So we have to follow the rules that are in place. Down below that, you can see the requirements. And below that, there's another spot. They just sent me something for math. It's a little bit different, but you can see the requirements for instructional staff. This is where we'll have to make sure you're qualified. It's holding that secondary CTE credential with the appropriate endorsement for those courses. Now, that one may apply to this necessarily. The CTE courses are also transferred. Okay, so you see that 18 graduate hours in the content area and a master's degree. That's really the key, right? Is to have those 18 graduate hours in the content area. And they actually pointed out there that like English, you have to have 18 clear hours in English. That's where some people get in trouble, is they've had classes that aren't really clearly definable as in the content area. She was describing that to us in the meeting, that people who apply for these positions often run into maybe it's I don't know, some kind of a class that's more of an education class, but it talked about English a little bit in it. They don't want to count those typically. They're looking for English classes. So one of the first steps for all of you here and listening to this too, as a recording, is that we would need to get your transcripts to her soon. I would like her to look through your transcripts to see if you qualify. For math down below, there's new requirements, but it didn't look that much different to me, but it's still for math 120, so 120, 121 are in that first category. The 18 hours of grad credit in math or applied math courses. And they even note the math education courses don't qualify. You need to have that completed master's in math or applied math or a math intensive subject. So I think rather than us trying to decide if we qualify or not, if you're interested, the next step is to get those transcripts together, and I can send them all together to her, and she can review those. If that makes sense, I think it does. Questions? Anybody have questions about and here's what I'm thinking before I ask for questions. I really, for me, a passion for me is this option for students. It's one of those pathways, and I talked about it this morning and SAC a little bit, but it's one of those pathways for students to keep them in school, to keep people engaged in school. Sometimes we know some students disengage because they're ready for something else, and traditional school doesn't provide that for them. And I saw that last year in my previous experience, that many of those students were successful in college, but you look at their transcript and they weren't very successful in a traditional high school, but they were really ready for college. And I also mentioned that Gateway program this morning, that we have 20-some students who were dropouts essentially, and they take the AccuPlacer, and if they qualify and they meet the requirements, this grant from the state puts them into concurrent enrollment classes, and we have them at our school too. They don't attend our school at all. They're just in the system as part of our school for data record keeping. But to me, that demonstrates also the power of some of these concurrent enrollment classes actually going to college, not just taking a class that the teacher is certified to give college credit, but actually taking the actual college class that the college students are taking across the state. I think has a lot of power. And I would like to get to some point where the students actually go to the campus to do that. But I think this is a great option for a lot of students who can't get to a campus. I know the students who live, mountain students, for example, my background's in the mountains at Evergreen, but many of those students would definitely have qualified for a college algebra at Red Rocks. But to drive down there from Evergreen, and what period would that be during the day, and how would they get there, and how would they get back on time, how would I schedule that into their schedule at Evergreen? But this, I think they would have jumped on if they could have taken it online, or put an online block into their schedule at Evergreen. They go to the library or they go home, I don't care, during that period, and they can take their math class, concurrent enrollment, that way with us. I think we're going to have some interest more on the district for this program.
And so they would need to have this all arranged and start at the beginning of a semester, right? They couldn't start 6 weeks in or whatever?
Correct. There'd be no dropping into this class. This is not a class someone gets placed in the middle of the semester. This is, we put it in our course catalog, the registration dates for these college classes. We have to follow Red Rock's calendar exactly. So with their drop dates, their add dates, they would have whatever Red Rocks has. We would follow their rules. And I can't quote the dates off the top of my head, but yeah, you wouldn't get a student tomorrow this semester for college algebra.
Okay. And they, with the math class, am I understanding correctly that they would need to take the AccuPlacer in order to kind of, do they have to take that and show readiness before they can sign up for this class? Is that
Absolutely. Absolutely. The enrollment requirements are Red Rock's enrollment requirements. So they would not be allowed in the class unless they applied for the College Opportunity Fund, the COF fund. They have to get, it has to be applied for. There's no argument there. And they have to get a quality score on the AccuPlacer. There's no debate. There's no, but we want this class. It doesn't work like that. Red Rocks doesn't work that way. They have to qualify for the class.
Okay. And I wonder when they would take that. I mean, obviously it has to be before the semester starts.
So what we would probably do, and I could talk to Marilyn about this some more, is we would organize, typically at my school last year and the years before at that school, the student had to do it on their own. We told them, hey, it's up to you. You do contact the college, you schedule an AccuPlacer, you bring us the score, and then we'll let you enroll. But I think we do a little more formally for us probably because we have one partner school. I had 20 partner schools last year to work with. This is only one school. So I would say I'd work with Marilyn from Red Rocks and say, is there a date we can do AccuPlacer testing, or a couple of dates we can put out to students that they could come take the AccuPlacer? For next year, it would be sometime maybe in the spring. Once we do registration, we start talking, part of the registration process would be taking the AccuPlacer. And then maybe for second semester, maybe that happens like this time of year, like October, maybe, if we have new students who want to take it. But I would imagine if we do a sequence like 121, 122, they've already passed it. So we may not need for those students. But if we had new students coming, we want to think about that. I don't know. But yeah, they definitely have to follow all the Red Rocks rules for that.
Okay. I'm curious that, sorry, I don't mean to ask all the questions, but for the Jeffco credits column, I see it says geometry or higher.
Right.
But I was assuming a student would have needed to complete Algebra 2 before taking college algebra, unless, Cheryl, what are your thoughts on that? Like, I thought college algebra was pre-calculus.
I would agree. That's what I thought too. I'm wondering if on the document it just means like for graduation purposes that that's specific about the credit they're getting, but that is a good clarifying question.
Right. The way I understand the crosswalk document is sort of what Cheryl said, is it's up to us to determine what credit that student might need. So what if somehow they didn't get a half a geometry credit along the way, but they have Algebra 2 and everything else, and they got an A in college algebra? I could give them a half credit in geometry to complete their transcript for graduation. So,
got it. Okay.
Right. If the student is AccuPlacer qualified for college algebra, if they didn't take Algebra 2 yet, does that really matter if they qualify for college algebra? I mean, I don't know. That's a good question.
And I don't know the answer to that either. Like, I feel like that is a good question to ask someone to get some clarification on.
I will add that to my list of questions for sure.
Because as and like you say, this, having them take this AccuPlacer is a good kind of boundary, so to speak. But I'm just thinking if a parent saw that, they'd be like, oh, I can go from geometry and hop into this college algebra class. But you're right, the AccuPlacer could be a gatekeeper.
Right.
Okay.
And the AccuPlacer has to be done on site, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe that's true. From what I know right now, that is the case. They take it at the community college.
Okay.
Yep. And I know it's not convenient for every student, the far north and far south kids, to go to Red Rocks for that. But once they do that piece of it, they don't have to go to Red Rocks campus anymore. But right now we can't partner with all those schools. We're going to focus, because Jeffco partners with Red Rocks. So we're working with Red Rocks. So.
And I will have to say, I think years ago I taught professional development courses through PBS Teacherline, and I'm pretty sure it's Desire to Learn that we used. And I remember thinking it was easy to use, if that helps.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you a question about the transcripts, Bernie?
Yes.
So since at this point you wouldn't be doing the calculus anyways, do you want to have just Gwen submit a transcript, or do you want me to go ahead and see if I'm qualified to do that at some point? I don't know what level you're at with that.
Well, I think anybody who's interested, at least we know you're qualified. I'm okay with getting a pool of people who are qualified. And then as a math department, we can talk about, what makes sense for what courses probably, or I don't know if you guys, but it's up to you. I don't mind if you don't want to for now. That's great. If Gwen just wants to, I think Trisha Cole's interested too. She wanted to know more about it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I sent her the invite, but maybe she didn't get it. But yeah, I would say send him. We'll find out who's qualified. The more we have on the list, at least we know, and then we could actually make some course plans, right? Knowing what we have available staffing wise.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming you just need copies, not necessarily official transcripts, or?
I think just copies for her for now, just to kind of see what they see on there, and then when it officially becomes time, probably to be a adjunct teacher with them. Essentially, you need to be more official. Yes. Yeah.
It's like an application process, really.
I'm not sure how they streamline that for current enrollment. There might be a streamlined version of that. We didn't get into that yet because Marilyn kept asking me to have you send her transcripts. Let me just see what we have before we go any further, which I understand her point, because if nobody qualifies, then the rest of it's moot.
Right.
So,
right.
So let's go from there. I will send out a reminder for all of you. If you want to send unofficial, it's fine. Just, screenshots or whatever you have, or PDFs or whatever of those you have. And I can send those to Marilyn as a group. I'll put them together and send those to her, and she can review what we have for math and English, see where we stand.
I think this is a really cool option.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, another thing I put up there, I didn't read, but I think you're right. I think it is exciting. I think it's cool for kids. It's a great opportunity for them to really get some college exposure to a real college class, and get those credits guaranteed to transfer anywhere in Colorado. Because as you know, with AP, some of the struggle is colleges are taking less and less of those AP tests, and it's harder to get credits. You can get maybe an elective credit, but you're not really getting content credit a lot of times for like a math class or an English class. So this is a guaranteed English or math credit transferable, transcribable and transferable to any college in the state. So I think it's exciting for students.
And do we know if it transfers out of state as well, or no?
That I can't speak to that for sure. I just know in the college and the guaranteed transfers within the state, that's a guarantee.
Okay.
I think some do from what I've heard, but I don't know the details on that. I can find that out too.
So it has the possibility of transferring out of state, but not the guarantee.
Correct. I think there are some, I've heard stories, there are some who have and some who haven't. I'll ask Marilyn that question too. She may have some experience with that.
Okay, and so like if I have my bachelor's degree in math, not in education, those classes don't count.
Right, they want 18 graduate hours in the content area. Right.
Okay.
Yep. But again, even if you're not quite sure, let's have her look and see what she comes up with, because somebody might even be close and be able to qualify. She can tell us what you need if it's close. So.
Okay.
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 And right now I'm thinking that this would be an extra prep. I get it. It'd be another prep for the teacher. But I also imagine that if we let it grow, if we're allowed to let it grow, I would think that we'd have students who would opt for the college English composition 121 versus taking English 11 or 12 or whatever. Many of them would maybe opt in that direction, especially some part-time enrollments. Like I said, I know I could have rounded up a dozen or two, maybe 2 dozen of Evergreen kids if we had this availability. We were always trying to find college classes for students. And it was just difficult with transportation and things like that. So I think there's potential to grow it into an entire prep by itself, a whole section for somebody to teach, but it might be small for us to start with. I don't know until we put it in the course catalog and we see what happens,
I know that this is not necessarily part of the appeal or purpose or goal. But, you know, we talked today a little bit about our standing with is it the AC? What is it? The ACE or the?
Oh, AC.
You know,
right.
Yeah. Does this at all look like it could impact that in the future? Like, you know, kids, because they have to qualify for whatever this fund is, right? Is there any kind of qualifying characteristics that then that also helps us?
That's a good question. I don't think it does. I think it has the COF fund, really, from what I could tell last year, if you just applied, you pretty much got it. It was just you had to make sure you applied for it. It really wasn't about like a lot of, I don't think so, but that's a good thing to think about too. I don't think it would affect our AEC either way too much. I think it would still be, I think we'd attract some part-time students who may or may not be AEC indicators, and we'd have some of our own full-time students who, again, may or may not, but I'm not sure. That's a good question.
I kind of see what Cheryl maybe was getting at, or maybe it just sparked a question in my mind is, so I do think this probably could be attractive for many part-time students, but then we're still only judged on our full-time students. So it's kind of like we're being pulled in multiple directions, but really only getting credit for one direction. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Right. Totally. That's, yeah, as I'm laying out my document to show Dr. Glass and the people, the powers that be at our school, you know, there's all these programs that we're being pulled in different directions. Yeah.
Which I'm fine with. I think it's great we're able to serve so many different needs, but it's kind of a bummer that we're judged only on the one strand.
Right. I agree. But
offering more and more programs like this probably helps us identify as maybe an alternative, or no? I don't know. Does that look appealing in terms of our status as an alternative school or not?
I don't think it helps that, because, you know, alternative has a lot more to do with those at-risk indicators, and these students may or may not be at risk with, like, you know, a parent in prison or having drug use, or those indicators don't necessarily tie to what courses kids are taking necessarily. Because like I said, that gateway program, many of those students are dropouts, and many of them are AEC indicator students, and they're able to take college classes and be very successful. So I don't know if it does either way. I think it just depends on the student and where they are and why they're an at-risk student, right? There's lots of reasons why they would be an at-risk student. Yeah. So
what do you think, Darcy?
Yeah, that all sounds good. Do you want our transcripts just scanned and emailed to you?
Yeah, that'd be great. Just email them to me, and then I can kind of see where we are. I can get those to Marilyn and kind of go from there. Okay. I'm lost in my tabs. Just give me a minute here. All right.
Are there any other English teachers with English degrees on our team? No?
I don't know if I think, oh, well, Lucy can't make the meeting. Lucy's one who's interested. Yes, I think she has her degree. So I'll talk to her. And there was maybe somebody else. But I'll get that information out to everybody who couldn't be here today either. I'll make sure they know too what to do.